Yesterday I did a video on loving yourself, and someone who watched that video said, "Well, according to your video, you're saying that Ramana Maharishi is wrong about the non-substantiability of the self." And what I said was, I was going to make a video, and I said Ramana was in fact wrong in part. And I'm going to present two extremely important things for you to know. Ramana was wrong in part. If you've read my book, Liberation from the Lie, you'll know that when human beings made the transition from being hunter-gatherers to living in civilization, it became essential to negate the self. With the development of civilization, nearly all people became workers. They no longer became free. They no longer were free. They had to become the sort of obedient, disciplined workers for the rulers, producing more and more food, often under adverse conditions. Hence, you have slavery. Women not only became workers, but they became baby makers. The reasons for this are long and complicated. I've written about this on my blog, if you follow my blog. And certainly, if you read the book, Liberation from the Lie, you will understand this process with perfect clarity. It will also make perfect sense to you that the negation of the self, which is a process that certainly in India took very deep root, became essential. So the philosophy that we often hear in Hinduism and also in Buddhism about the negation of the self is simply a part of the society and culture of its time. And here's another insight into the truth of what I'm saying. There are, and don't see these as very discrete categories, but there are three categories of doing. They're not totally discrete. One is the kind of doing that we must do. We must prepare food. We generally have to work to pay our bills. We have to pay our taxes. The body has all kinds of things that it must do. We need food, sleep, we need shelter. These things must be built. We have to produce things to make our life possible. And these are the things we must do. We go to school, we learn things, we learn skills, we develop competence. And these things we have to do. The second category of doing is what I talked about in the video yesterday, is expressing what makes us unique. And we do that out of love. And love has very little of the quality of comparison. Am I a better writer than this person, or is this person better than me? We do it out of love because we want to do it. We just enjoy life more when we do it. That's the second category of doing, and that's what I really talked about in my video yesterday. And I also talked about this quality of uniqueness, where each one of us brings a completely different song and style and signature to the world. There's only one Walt Whitman. There's only one Jimi Hendrix. There's only one Claude Monet. And you can't be Jimi Hendrix, and you cannot be Claude Monet, and you cannot be Walt Whitman. The universe manifested in their body in ways that were distinct and unique and beautiful, and they did what they loved. The third category of doing is compulsive and fear-based. And this is the doing we do to prove our worth, both to ourselves and others. We prove that we're good enough, or we're more than good enough. We prove that we're worthy of love. We need to prove that we are sufficient, that we are adequate. And this is the only category of doing which is problematic, which manifests as suffering in our lives. And even this category has a beauty to it. But we're not going to discover that beauty and that meaning to compulsive, fear-based doing unless we fully understand it and how it relates to the other categories of doing. And to do that, and I've become convinced, because I have my own inadequacy issues, believe me, I have become convinced that my own book has become truly a wonderful guide in this process. And it's a manual to discover your own beauty. Truly, it is. And I've heard this from so many readers now that even I am a highly self-critical person, and becoming convinced that liberation from the lie can transform your life. And I need to tell you that this book is the anti-self-help book, because quite a few people have requested that I host satsangs, that I provide some kind of guidance, and I have refused to do this. And the reason I don't do it is because the whole purpose of liberation is liberation to find you. And as long as you depend on someone else, whether it's the Buddha, the Ramana, or some person doing a satsang, or Wayne Dyer, or whoever it is, or Eckhart Tolle, then you're not true to yourself. The only healer you need is you. And so I don't feel comfortable giving advice, because it provides a dependency relationship. So when you read Liberation from the Lie, everything in that book is pointing to one thing, and that's you. Your voice. What makes you unique? What makes you capable of finding this inner Claude Monet and Walt Whitman, and this belief in yourself, not based on fear. And this is what makes life fantastic. This is what I love to do. You know, I'm really bad at so many things in life. The list would really impress you, but I have some. I don't even care about good or bad. When you do what you love, the results will be compelling. And I know this may sound like bragging to you, but when I reread my book, Liberation from the Lie, when I reread, it's like I can't believe this. I wrote this. The book seems better than me in a way. I know that might strike you as strange. I've heard this from other writers as well about their own works, and maybe Claude Monet and Walt Whitman felt that about their own art. I mean, Walt Whitman, he says, "I sing of the body electric," and he's all about this, his own beauty. And recall that Walt Whitman was gay growing up in the first half of the 19th century America, and you know that was not an easy road to take. He must live with such inner pain and anguish, yet he writes of extraordinary beauty and elevation in ways that are just extraordinary, because he discovered the power of his inner self. And so when you read Liberation, when you see why culture is needed to invalidate and negate the self, you will understand where philosophers such as Ramana Maharishi didn't quite get it. They didn't, because they have brought with them their own cultural baggage. And that is something we no longer need. And the reason why you don't see the same quality of self-negation in Chinese philosophy, and here I'm referring to the Tao Te Ching ascribed to Lao Tzu and Chuang-Tzu, you don't see it nearly as much in Chinese philosophy, because the Chinese philosophers are much more aligned and rooted in their own hunting-gathering pre-civilization past. They bring that with them. Indian civilization was more powerful in a way, and it really brought a very strong boundary between their own hunting-gathering past and living life in agricultural civilization. Big differences between Indian and Chinese philosophy. And so we see that in Ramana, but we don't see it in Chuang-Tzu. So, and you don't see it in Osho, and you don't see it in my own writings. So anyway, this is what I wanted to say, the 3 categories of doing. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you as always for taking the time to watch this. Okay, thank you.